Borgel by Daniel Pinkwater. Chapter 3. One night, Uncle Borgel tiptoed into the room I shared with my brother, Milo. We were both asleep. Uncle Borgel pressed a flashlight and a scrap of paper into my hand and then tiptoed out. I switched on the flashlight and read what was written on the paper. "Come to my room in 1 hour. Get dressed and carry your shoes in one hand. Also, bring some extra clothing. A spare shirt, underwear, socks. Don't make any noise. Borgel. Tie not necessary." I waited until the luminous hands of the alarm clock indicated that 3/4 of an hour had passed. Then I got up, dressed in the dark, rummaged around for some spare clothes, and carrying my shoes in one hand, made my way through the dark apartment to Uncle Borgel's room. "Come in." I went in. Uncle Borgel had on his hat and coat. He was sitting on his bed with one of his lumpy leather valises on his lap. "Thanks for coming," he said. "I just wanted to say goodbye." "Where are you going?" I asked. "I thought I'd take Fafner with me. It would be too cruel to leave the dog here. He wouldn't understand." You're going?" "Yes, going." I didn't know what else to say, so I said, "Why did you ask me to bring these extra clothes?" "It's cold in the apartment. I thought you might want to put them on. Do you want to put them on?" "No, I don't want to put them on." "If you're tired of holding them, you can put them in this valise." He opened the valise. "Here, put them in the valise." I put my clothes in the valise. "Well," Uncle Borgel said, "I will be going now. Come, Fafner." "Wait," I said. "You're just going to wander off in the middle of the night? I mean, just leave?" The truth was, I was a little worried that maybe Uncle Borgel had gone crazy. I couldn't just let him wander off like that. "If you're going, I'm going with you," I said. "That's okay by me," Uncle Borgel said. "I'll wait while you put your shoes on." I laced my shoes, grabbed my coat from the coat tree in the hall as we passed it, and followed Uncle Borgel in his long black coat and broad-brimmed hat, carrying his black lumpy leather valise and followed by Fafner, down the stairs, out of the building, and into the street. This was my situation. I was out in the street, in the middle of the night, with the family dog and my sort of great-uncle, who was at least 111 years old. What it amounted to was that we were running away from home. It was very strange. I had overheard conversations between my parents about the possibility that Borgel might go soft in the head sometime. This didn't seem to be very likely in Borgel's case. He always did the crossword puzzle with his leaky fountain pen in under 2 minutes. Once I got him as a present a book of the world's hardest crossword puzzles. He did them all in about a half an hour. Borgel could also figure in his head faster than I could work my father's adding machine. And he could juggle 5 balls. Still, it seemed very odd, this taking off in the middle of the night. Probably the right thing to do would have been to wake up my parents and tell them Uncle Borgel had gone crazy and was running away. I couldn't do that. He was my favorite relative. If Borgel was going to run away, the only thing to do was to run away with him and see that nothing bad happened to him. I myself had no particular reason to run away from home. I wasn't mistreated or anything of that kind. On the other hand, it occurred to me that there was no strong reason not to run away. I was fairly bored by my family, except Borgel. There wasn't anything better to do. But it seemed to me that I was entertaining foolish thoughts. After all, how far could we get? It would probably all come to nothing within a couple of hours. Borgel was making his way along, peering at the parked cars. He was sort of mumbling to himself. I considered offering to carry his valise for him, but he never allowed that sort of thing. We went a block, turned the corner, went another block, turned another corner. We were going around the block. Borgel was obviously confused. Maybe he had gone soft in the head after all. He continued to peer at parked cars. I couldn't imagine what he was up to. Then he put down the valise, opened it, and took out a length of stiff wire, a straightened-out coat hanger. He worked the wire into the window frame of a beaten-up old sedan, fished around, and caught the door lock knob with the hooked end of the wire. It took only a few seconds. "Get in," he said. Fafner jumped in. I followed him. Uncle Borgel had broken into a parked car. Now he was fiddling around under the dashboard with another piece of wire. This time it was insulated electrical wire. He was hot wiring it. Uncle Borgel was a car thief. "Uncle Borgel, are you sure this is a good idea?" "Sure, it's the only way." "Suppose the police caught you and threw you in jail?" "Ha ha ha! Hypothetical questions! So what? What could they do to me? Give me life in prison? Besides, I'm a cute old man. No court in the world would convict a cute old man. Anyway, I haven't done anything to get arrested for." "Haven't done anything? What do you call—" "Shush, I have to concentrate." Uncle Borgel felt around under the dashboard, poking with his piece of wire. Suddenly, the engine turned over. Borgel smiled. "That's got it," he said. The engine was coughing and sputtering. Borgel stamped on the gas pedal. The car vibrated and lurched forward. We were moving. We were criminals. I was an accessory to grand larceny. I knew this because I had watched a lot of police shows on TV. Grand theft auto was what I was an accessory to. A felony. I thought you could get about 7 years for that. Not being a cute old man, I figured they'd throw the book at me. I wasn't feeling very happy. Uncle Borgel obviously was. He was singing as he drove. Uncle Borgel had often cautioned me not to be a wimp. He was of the opinion that the rest of the family had wimpish tendencies, and had warned me against falling into those ways. I bring this up because I do not want to give the impression that I was unaware of the thrills and excitement available to persons who have committed grand theft auto. I appreciated that we were taking a lot of risks, and I could see that it was sort of an adventure, but my thoughts kept returning to the prospect of getting caught and thrown in prison. The old sedan chugged onto the interstate, and in 15 minutes or so had worked up to cruising speed. I was thinking that if one commits grand theft auto and then crosses a state line, it becomes a federal crime, and one stands a good chance of being machine-gunned by the FBI. I considered working this into the conversation, but I couldn't be sure whether it would have the effect of discouraging Borgel or just making him happy. Fortunately, there wasn't much traffic on the interstate at this time of night, just the occasional convoy of trucks, which would shoot past us and be out of sight in 2 minutes. I began to cling to the hope that we would get so far away from the scene of our crime that nobody would be looking for us. When we got to a city, I'd persuade Borgel to dump the car, and we'd go home on the bus. Oh no, the state line was coming up fast. We'd be across it soon. This was it, the big time, professional crime. It was going to be death in a hail of bullets for me. "Melvin, look in the glove compartment and see if there are some whole wheat fig bars in there." I had to hand it to Uncle Borgel. He was a cool one, thinking of fig bars at a time like this. I opened the glove compartment and rummaged around. "Super yeast candy bar, raisins, anything you find in there," Borgel said. "I'm feeling hungry, and I don't want to stop until we've burned up this tank of gas." I found a cellophane bag of whole wheat fig bars and passed it to Borgel. "Care for one?" he said. "Maybe later," I said. I was examining something else I'd found in the glove compartment. It was a plastic folder containing a card. It had Uncle Borgel's picture on it. I could read the card by the light of the tiny bulb in the glove compartment. It said that the car was a 1937 Borgel sedan, that it had 4 cylinders and weighed 5,307 pounds, and that it was owned by Borgel McTavish. McTavish was Borgel's last name. Not that he was a Scotsman. McTavish was as close as any English-speaking person could come to pronouncing his last name. which sounded nothing like McTavish, but even less like anything else. "This is your car," I said. Borgel sprayed whole wheat and fig crumbs all over the dashboard. "Naturally it's my car. Why'd you think I stole it?" "Why did you break in with a coat hanger and start it without a key?" "Because I lost my key after I had the car about a year, and then the country where she was made went out of business, so I couldn't get a new one. How about this car? 45 years I've had her and never changed the oil once. She's a honey." Honey was making about 40 miles an hour and clouds of white smoke. I took a bite of a whole wheat fig bar and settled back against the seat cushions. "This is the life," Uncle Borgel said. "The open road, a good machine, and the whole wheat fig bar. By the way, see if the dog will eat one of those." I offered Fafner a fig bar, which he accepted without enthusiasm. He didn't like food that got stuck in his teeth. "This is the life, all right," I said. "By the way, are we going anywhere in particular?" "Yes, we are." "Do you feel like telling me where?" "I feel like telling you a story from my life." "Will we be gone long?" "That depends on what you call long. We'll see." "I was just thinking about my parents." "I left them a note." "Oh, that's good. What did the note say?" "The note said, 'Melvin and I have gone away. We took the dog. Don't anybody go in my room. Love, Borgel.'" "That should do it," I said. "Sure," Borgel said. It sank in. We had really run away. Borgel, my 111-year-old super great uncle, or whatever he was, and I. "There are some bottles of natural honey-sweetened ginger beer in the back," Borgel said. "See if you can reach a couple." I hung over the seat back and felt around. Under Fafner, I found a brown paper bag that clinked. I reached in and fished out 2 bottles of ginger beer. "What do I do with these?" I asked. "Give 'em here," Uncle Borgel said. "Pardon my teeth." With his teeth, he pried the cap off one of the bottles and handed it to me. He did the same with the other bottle and spat both caps out the window. I was impressed. The natural honey-sweetened ginger beer tasted good and sort of burned my lips. I liked the sensation of hurtling along in the old Dorbzelge, driving through the night with Borgel and snacking on good things. "How come you never mentioned having this car?" I asked him. "There are lots of things I never mentioned. I don't use this car for little errands, just for big road trips. That's why she's lasted so long." "When was the last time you took a road trip?" 1946, Borgel said. "I ended up in Yellowstone." "Are we going to Yellowstone?" "I wasn't planning on it, but you never know. We'll see some interesting things, that's for sure." "Gonna drive all night?" "Until I get tired. You can go to sleep if you want to." "I'm not sleepy." "So I'll tell you a story from my life." Uncle Borgel didn't say anything. "Okay," I said. "Okay, what?" "Okay, tell me a story from your life." "I'm picking one out." More silence. "Do you mind if I play the radio?" I asked. "Go ahead, I'm still picking." I turned the knob. A green light behind the dial came on. "Give it time to warm up," Borgel said. In a minute or so, I could hear static. I twisted the turning knob. I found a station. A man was talking. He sounded like someone. He sounded like Borgel's friend, Mr. Raspelnutzpicki. He was speaking that same language. "Hey," I said. "Shortwave," Uncle Borgel said. "This car's got everything." "He's talking in that same language you speak with your friend." "No, he's not. That's French." "That's not French." "You can speak French?" "Well, no, but..." "So how do you know it isn't French?" "Well, because it doesn't sound like French." "The announcer has a cold and a Canadian accent. He's talking French. You can believe me, I know a lot." It didn't sound like French. It sounded exactly like Mr. Raspelnutzpicki. But Borgel's mind was made up. There was no point in arguing with him. On the other hand, he could have been right. I was getting pretty sleepy. At one point, I thought I heard the announcer say something about the Star-Spangled Banner All-American Cafeteria, but by that time, I was already drifting into sleep as the Dorbzelge thundered along the highway. Okay. Okay, what? Okay, I've picked the story from my life, the one I want to tell you. I shook myself awake. Okay, tell it. Okay, so here goes. Long ago in the future, in the galaxy of Witzbilb near Terrexstein... Long ago in the future? Who's telling this story? Be quiet and pay attention. Sorry. Long ago in the future, in the galaxy of Witzbilb, near Terrexstein, a planet with 5 moons, on a little planetoid no bigger than a gob of spit in this vast and expanding universe, there was a moment. A moment? That's right. This story is about a moment. Absolutely! A moment like a moment in time, right? Right. Now to continue. This was a happy little moment that had never done anybody the least harm. This moment, whose name was Dennis, played with the other little moments, romping and gambling with never a care in the world. Little Dennis never suspected that he would become a moment in history. Of course, he already had, because this is a story of the future, told in the tense of the past. Would you mind if I went to sleep now? This isn't holding your interest, is it? I'm nodding. Okay, how about if I told you the true story about how I became a time tourist? A time tourist? What's that? Well, it really should be time, space, and the other. That's the element in which I am a tourist. But time tourist sounds better. It could be a story on TV. Borgel the Time Tourist. Borgel the Time Tourist and his amazing adventures. The amazing adventures of Borgel the Time Tourist. Welcome to another thrilling episode of Borgel, Tourist in Time. A watch company could sponsor it. The makers of Psycho Watches brings you another episode of Borgel the Time Tourist. Hello, I am wearing the Psycho 640 kilobyte digital watch, just like the one Borgel the Time Tourist uses. It runs in all directions, and underwater, and at temperatures up to 16,000 degrees centigrade. And you can hit it with a hammer, you can leave it in the freezer, you can spit on it, you can stomp on it, nothing's gonna hurt this baby. Bullets you can shoot at it, acid, magnets, vibrations. So, what's a time tourist? I'm one. I'm a time tourist. Me. Yes. Yes. As I said, it would be better to say space, time, and the other tourist, because it isn't only time, you know. What's the other? Ha! That's easy, sonny boy. It is that which exists in neither time nor space. It's the best part of being a time tourist. I had read some stuff along these lines, and I had seen plenty of science fiction on television, so this sort of thing was not new to me. Neither was it new for Uncle Borgel to incorporate plots of television shows into the stories he told me. The way to enjoy this was to play along. So what do you do when you're a time tourist? I asked. Well, the first thing you need is a vehicle. This Dorbzelge is a first-rate time, space, and the other machine. The next thing, if you really know what you're doing, is to have some good traveling companions. You and Fafner have the makings of the very best fellow tourists. So I'm a time tourist too. You are now. What else do we need? But just the willingness for it to happen, that's all. The willingness for what to happen? The willingness to leave one time, space, and the other continuum and enter into another. Are you willing for that to happen? Sure. You've got to be really willing. You can't just say so to be polite. Are you really willing? You really want to take the trip? Yes, I really want to. Okay, we've got everything we need and we're started. Whoopee! The night sky was clear and full of stars. I looked at Uncle Borgel. He was happy. There was a big smile on his face, and it was possible to see a few of the stars through his head. That's neat, I thought. Uncle Borgel is sort of translucent. I held my hand up in front of the windshield and looked at some stars through it. They were dimly but plainly visible. "Hatsha!" Uncle Borgel shouted. "Time, space, and the other, here we come!" I came all the way awake. "Wait a minute, I can see through my hand! What's happening?" "You have a problem, Mr. Adventurer?" Uncle Borgel asked. "I can see through my hand! I'm transparent! What's going on?" "Relax, it's normal." "It's not normal! I can see stars through my hand!" "Sort of neat, wouldn't you say?" Uncle Borgel asked. "Well, except that it's terrifying. What is this?" "Now don't be a weenie," Borgel said. "What kind of time tourist do you call yourself if you get all excited just because you see a few stars?" "I'm seeing these stars through what I hope is solid flesh, and I want to know why." "Why? I don't know exactly why. It's something that happens when you travel very fast through time, space, and the other." It was sinking in. Borgel wasn't just telling me a story from television. We were really traveling through time and space, or something of the kind. I was squinting through the palm of my hand at stars, and it was like looking at them through a pair of sunglasses. "Well, what else happens? Tell me everything." "All sorts. Sometimes we become completely immaterial. Sometimes we turn into heat, sound, light, all sorts. It's fun." "This is dangerous, isn't it?" "Well, this is no more dangerous than eating ice cream." I felt a little better. "In a hot air balloon in a high wind." I felt a little worse. "Don't worry," Uncle Borgel said. "I've been doing this sort of thing for maybe 800 or 900 years. It's a snap, you'll get used to it." "What do you mean, 800 or 900 years?" "It's just a guess. I lost track of myself a long time ago." "You're telling me that you're 800 or 900 years old?" "Older. You can't be a time tourist where I come from until you're all grown up. You're lucky you don't have to come from there." "From where?" "From the old country, where you have to be all grown up before you can be a time tourist. There aren't many boys your age have an opportunity like this." "I feel sort of sick." "The fig bars didn't agree with you? Have another swig of the ginger beer." "Uncle Borgel, I'm not following this very well. Maybe you'd better start from the beginning." "Sure, we got plenty of time. A story from my life. You comfortable?" No, I am not comfortable. I am confused and scared, and I can see through my hand, not to mention through your head. Up until a few minutes ago, I was under the impression that we were riding along an ordinary road in an ordinary stolen car. Now you're telling me that we're traveling through time, space, and the other, and that you're more than 900 years old. None of this makes me comfortable." "Well, you seem to have all the facts straight. Maybe I can help you feel a little better about this if I tell you some history." "Uncle Borgel, anything you can do to help will be greatly appreciated." "Fine. Now settle back, look at the nice stars through your hand, and I'll tell you everything. The first thing you have to understand is that time is not like a string." "Time is not like a string?" "Some people think it is. It isn't. It also isn't like a series of frankfurters, a loop, a figure eight, a fast train with a mosquito in it, a melting ice cube, a floppy pocket watch, a French cookie, rotten apples, silly putty, or Swiss cheese." "No?" "No." So, time is like a map of the state of New Jersey. Not like the state of New Jersey, or even the state of New Jersey seen from the air or from a satellite. It is like a map of the state of New Jersey. You got that? Sure. Okay, next is space. Space is sort of like a bagel, but an elliptical one with poppy seeds. You got that? Got it. Time is like a map of New Jersey. Space is like a bagel. Good. Next is the other. This is the hardest to explain. The best I can do is that the other is like a mixed salad in which there is only one ingredient you like. Now, one more time. Time is like a map of New Jersey, space is like a bagel with poppy seeds, and the other is like a salad with only one thing you like in it, I repeated. Excellent, have a fig bar. Now I can get on with the history. Am I allowed to ask questions? Certainly. Why is time like a map of New Jersey? A good question. This is why time is like a map of New Jersey. Let's say you are in Newark, New Jersey, and you want to go to, let's say, Perth Amboy, New Jersey. You don't know exactly where Perth Amboy is. What do? I look at a map? Exactly, you'll look at a map. And the map shows you what roads to take to get to Perth Amboy, or Hoboken, or Elizabeth, or anywhere in the state. Now here comes the big question. If you were in Newark and were thinking about Perth Amboy, would Perth Amboy exist? Sure. Right. Now let's imagine you're still in Newark and you are not thinking about Perth Amboy. Would it still exist? Yes. And if you had never even heard of Perth Amboy and you weren't thinking about it, would it exist then? Yes. How about Jersey City? Same thing. Correct, it is exactly the same thing. So, Mr. Professor of Philosophy, all the towns and cities and places in New Jersey exist, whether you know about them or are thinking about them or not, right? Right. Trenton? Yes. Hasbrook Heights? Yes. Weehawken? Yes. Cape May Courthouse? Is there such a place? There is. Then yes. So there you are in Newark, and all the other places exist even though you are not in them, see? I do. The same thing with time. All the moments in time exist, even though you're only in one of them. I get it. You do? Sure, it's easy. I was getting sort of excited. The points in time extend in all directions, and even though we can only know about them one by one, the others are all there. Perfect. Now if you left Newark and went to Moonachie, would Newark cease to exist? No. And if you wanted to go back to Newark, would it still be there? Probably. You're an intelligent kid. So if you have the means to do it, I said, you can go back and forth from any point in time to any other point in time, because they're all always there, and it works out to be like a map of New Jersey or some other state. Wrong. Not some other state, just New Jersey. Why not one of the other states? They're the wrong shape. While Borgel was telling me this, I was noticing that the road beneath us was starting to glow. The road is starting to glow, I said. That's normal, Borgel said. Only a couple things you need to understand before I can tell my story. You know about space? You mean outer space, planets and all that? I asked. Space! Inner, outer, near, far, solid, and immaterial. The distance between stars and the distance between an ant's ears and his hind foot. Space, you know about it? I know it exists. Good enough. You're a smart boy, Melvin. I'm glad I brought you with me. You know what it is light years? That's the distance it takes light to travel in a year. So if we wanted to go to some galaxy that's 50 million light years away and could travel at half the speed of light, it would take us how long to get there? I don't know, how long? Too long, that's how long. That's space. But if you can move through time and space, both at once, and you sort of hit it diagonally, you can, in effect, get from Newark to Hoboken in about 3 seconds. That's how we travel in time and space. Sort of like a warp? I asked. Oh, we know who's been watching television, Uncle Borgel said. Yes, that's the idea. So you should also remember from Star Trek that if we change the angle a couple of degrees, we can leave Newark in the 20th century and hit Hoboken in the 18th. You still with me? Still with you, I said. By this time, there was no physical sensation of moving forward. Road vibrations, engine and tire noises had ceased, and the Dorbzelge was completely silent. The road was now glowing a milky white, and to the sides of it was blackness. The only thing that told me we were moving was an occasional amorphous blob of light sliding past us. It didn't look anything like space travel on TV or a video game. What really surprised me was that the windows were still open. "Are we traveling in time and space right now?" I asked Borgel. "Full speed ahead," Borgel said. "You know the windows are open." "So, you cold?" "I mean, is it all right for them to be open?" "Stick your hand out, see what happens." I stuck my hand out. It vanished. That is, it ceased to exist as I put it outside the car. I drew it back and it reappeared. "That's spooky," I said. "Isn't it?" Borgel said. "Now are you ready to hear the story of how I became a time tourist?" "One more question first," I said. "How does this Dorbzelge work? Has it got phaser drive? Has it got warp drive? Has it got improbability drive?" "It's got hydromatic," Borgel said. "It says so right here in the middle of the steering wheel."